Episode 124, I am talking with my favorite strawweight on the planet, Mariah Castro. She's the reigning and defending now Flex Fighting Series strawweight champion. So, champ, welcome back. It's like, I can't believe in all the amount of time I've known you, this is like only the second show we've done where we're specifically talking about just you and not MMA. And that's kind of like wild to me.
No, I love it. It's been like 2 months since we've done anything. So it's cool. I even told you, I was like, let's save the show till after the fight because I wanted more to talk about. So I thought that would be cool, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Well, we got certainly a lot to talk about, and there are a lot of people that actually want to ask you questions, and I kind of want to dive right into the mailbag and start off the episode by asking you some of the listener questions. We got one that I thought was pretty cool, and it's a pretty simple question, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it. Who is your biggest inspiration? That's a good question. Generic, but good.
That's wow.
That's deep.
That is deep. It's like, I don't know if I should take it as who's my inspiration as far as fighting goes, like any other fighters that I'm inspired by, or like shit and like, you know what I mean? Like,
how about we why don't we restrict the question to fighting for now?
Okay, yeah. Two fighters I have to say. One is, how could it not be Rose Namajunas?
Yeah, sure.
How could it not be? You know what I mean? She is a tactician, and I relate to her in a lot of ways because I feel like I'm a more technical fighter. I don't carry a whole lot of muscle. I'm not, the brute, and I feel like she identifies with that as well. And another one, I have to say it because she kind of paved the way. I have to say Ronda Rousey. That was like, I was watching her, when I first started watching MMA. So her impression on me was like really big. Even now, like, I'm a real big fan of throws and trips, judo style takedowns, because they're high reward, low risk. So that's cool too. So those two definitely stand out for sure.
Hey, those are, I don't think anyone could find any fault in those responses. The second question is, when you started the sport, did you know you were going to end up being a champion one day?
Yes. The only reason why I say that is because when I started, it wasn't half-hearted. Mm-hmm. Like, once I found, because I was shopping for a school for a little while, I heard about this place that I'm at now through the grapevine. And, day one, I got put through the ringer and I stayed, and I was just like, this is it. Because I knew like I needed something to challenge me, like a place to challenge me where I could grow, stuff like that, where it wasn't just a business. I knew that like once I was in, like I was fully in,
And talk about like from your brain, like visualizing something to it actually happening. That's got to be a really powerful moment. Like, you won it the first time, you got a medal, but like you're not a champion until you defend. And you did that, and like at that point, did it like really like sink in? Like, holy shit! Like, I did this. Like, I climbed this. Like, I know we have a range of other mountains to climb, but like at the same time, it was like a notable achievement that you had, and like only a fraction of the population knows what that feels like to not only win a fight, but to like be considered like the best. That's got to be like a surreal kind of out of body experience.
Well, yes, that is, but also having other teammates fighting that night, another title fight on my team, that definitely made it even bigger and better, and that fight was a case for me to make my pro debut.
Yeah.
That fight was like, I know I'm going to make sure this is my last amateur fight. You know what I mean? Like, I need to make the case that I can execute a game plan. I can listen to my coach. I can go 9 minutes plus because I didn't feel tired after that fight, So I'm like, this was me making my case to go pro. That's literally what this fight was. That's why it was like super meaningful, not just defending the belt, but I came in with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. Like, I knew I wasn't losing that fight. I absolutely was not losing that fight. And I think I realized after the second round, like I started screaming at the crowd for no apparent reason. And that's when I realized, because I told my coach in the corner, I was like, we're getting a belt. We're getting a belt. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like it was already like, it was, my mind was made up, you know?
I think I was more nervous for your fight than you were.
Oh,
Like
for
I was like, I said a lot of shit to you. I was like, I think like one of like my more cringy things I said to you, and I thought it was like funny now looking back on it. I was like, I know you'll win, but I just don't want her to hit you. And you're just like, you're ridiculous. Like,
You don't swim without getting wet.
you don't swim without getting wet. I know it's the name of the game. It's just interesting, like when you know somebody like on a personal level, and then you watch them fight. It's just like, oh gosh, don't like hurt my friend. And I don't know. It's weird how that goes. But hey, props to your opponent. She's a tough girl. Here is kind of a tough question, and I'm gonna try to like parse it down a little bit because I think this is the gist of what they're asking. Is it hard sometimes to be taken seriously as a female fighter because some other women have sexualized their brands so much?
Yes and no. The only reason why I say no is because the people who know me have definitely shown me, you know, the respect. They've seen me throughout my career, they've trained with me, so on and so forth. So their opinion is really based, or their perception is really based on what I've given them, you know, what they've seen from me being around me. I say yes because I think on a broader scale, people who don't know me, it might make it, you know, they might fetishize it a little bit, if that's the correct word.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is hypersexualized, and I think down the line, you know, when I'm trying to build myself as a pro, it is going to be difficult to not, you know, to separate myself from that, because a lot of girls see that as the route to getting the fights that they want, the attention they want. And I just don't plan on using that to propel me, you know.
One of the and who is it for me to say like one way or the other? I think for me, like I know I'm a snob. I know I'm an MMA snob. And it's not to say like my line of thinking is necessarily correct. It's just a perspective. Take it for what it's worth. But and maybe I'm gonna sound like, you know, I'm 100 million years old, but that's okay. But when I think of women's mixed martial arts, I don't think of these like Hannah Goldie types, and I don't have anything against Hannah Goldie at all,
Right.
none whatsoever. I don't, but I don't think about like these Barbie dolls. I don't. And there's nothing against anyone. I wouldn't judge anybody's worth as a fighter based off their appearance one way or the other. I'm indifferent. Truly, I am, because I'm not here to watch a beauty pageant. I'm here to watch violence. I'm here to watch combat sports, and somebody's physical appearance has no bearing on the outcome. It has no bearing on somebody's skill. And when I think of women's mixed martial arts, I feel like, and I don't know if this is like the right answer. So, you know, take it up for what it's worth. It might seem anecdotal, but there's so many people that are going to think about the Paige Van Zants, and they're going to think about the Valerie Loredas, and hey, to each their own. But I don't. I think of like Roxanne Modafferi. I think about somebody who fought with very little fanfare, and she made it at that level based purely off of merit, based purely off of skill. And so, like, she's the first person I honestly think of. And then, of course, Ronda is up there too. But I think of Roxanne Modafferi. Without her and without women like her, I don't think there is women's mixed martial arts, period.
No, absolutely. I think you're spot on with that. So there are some women in the new age that are kind of taking a different route, and to each their own. I just don't want people to kind of make that an expectation of theirs, but you know what, it kind of puts you in a position where you're like, you just have to watch what kind of content you put out there if you don't want to be perceived that way.
Mhm.
And that's the reason I don't put out that kind of content. My Instagram is an MMA page, so I don't post anything that's I don't know, provocative or anything like that. So yes, people should be able to do whatever they want and still establish themselves and be respectable. But at the same time, you know what day and age we're in. So and media, it has a lot to do with people's perception of you. So you kind of just have to be mindful about what you're putting out there, what you're giving people. And I really like to control what elements I give people.
I think as you forge your identity, particularly at this point in your career when you're getting ready to like turn pro, how you forge your brand and your identity, it's very similar. Well, you and I both have them. It's like getting inked up. Once you forge that, like once you go down a path, that's on you. And you're not going to really get away from that. You can try, and it may take a really long time. I'm not saying it's not impossible, but like people are always going to remember that first impression, right? So like I could laser this shit off. It'll take me probably 2 or 3 years, but like you'll always still kind of see something, right? Like, and when I think of like putting out an image, when I think about like putting out a brand, I think of something very, very similar to that. So it's like, and again, I'm not trying to talk shit on the women who do this, but it's like if you're going pro and you twerk after you fight, and then you on Instagram put a photo up, like a Kardashian-esque photo up of you in a G-string, I better not fucking hear you 6 or 9 months later getting all bent out of shape because you feel like you're being sexualized and you're not being respected as a mixed martial artist, because that's how you branded yourself. I just don't want to hear it. That's just me personally. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's like, listen, you can't expect people to not have these ideas, these thoughts, because fans are already a little bit nuts. So
That's fair.
you just give them ammo. Well, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, what do you expect? And especially at the highest levels, people, looking at you, especially if you're not really having established opponents, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're fighting cans is the way to say it. If you're fighting cans, it's not helping you either. So, you gotta kind of be mindful of that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that's like one thing, like I think one of the reasons why I feel like I have such a connection with you is because you are the way that you are. And that's not your brand. That's like, and it's no shade on the people who decide to go down that pathway, but it's a very trodden path. A lot of women have done it, and it's kind of tiresome. And I just kind of feel like if you want to be taken seriously, if you want to be like among the elite, that can't really be part of the equation, in my opinion. Like if you want to be like one of the best ever, you have to act like one of the best ever. And that, take that for what it is. And I like your mentality, and I like how you're very much like, no, it's going to be on merit. Like there's this isn't really about me. This is about like being an ambassador of the sport at large. And I like that about you very much. And I hope my daughter, she watches people like you fight, and I hope that she takes some sort of inspiration away from that. And it's not to say that she has to be a fighter, but it's like, hey, like this person's putting in the work. Like you don't have to run a 5'4" 40 to be a fighter. You don't have to like be so strong or so tall. Like they're just normal people, but they've really dedicated themselves to something. And there's like a parallel to life, right? Like whatever it is that you want to be, if you're willing to like put in the work and do what it takes, you can do that. And that's why I like watching you fight so much, because your evolution and like the things I saw in your very first bout compared to the things I just saw in this most recent bout, I know you've been putting in the work a lot. And that leads me into like, I kind of want to like segue, and I was hoping I could ask you some questions about your camp and getting ready for Marissa. I hope I don't, like, I struggle with her last name, Vanglon. Did I say that right?
I'll be honest, I don't know.
Okay. Well, we'll go with that. And if she's watching,
so
if she's watching this, my apologies. I did not mean to butcher your name, but you were slated to fight a very, very tough girl, and you knew who she was. You'd seen her fight before. Women's MMA, it's a small world. Can you talk a little bit about like what your camp was like, and what are some of the things that you worked on to get ready for her?
This whole camp was basically like me in a bad position. It, the Natalie fight was like a turning point, right? Well, once I was getting taken down. I'd never really been taken down before. So once that happened, I knew that that was everybody's idea was, oh, they want to take me down now. So, since then, everything has been working a lot of wrestling. This camp specifically, I worked so much on having my back up against the cage, getting up, reversals if I'm, on bottom. Luckily, I didn't have to, I didn't end up on bottom or anything, but it was just working, having my back up against the cage and being pressured, circling, footwork, like a lot of footwork.
That's I asked that question, Mariah, because having looked at the fight, I felt like you maintained, like you kept your composure very well, and at no point in that fight did I see you surprised. It seemed to me that you were very, very prepared and not taken off guard by anything. Like everything kind of like went according to plan based off of your body language, based off of the things that I saw. Did she throw any wrenches at you that you weren't really expecting, or did you pretty much get like the textbook version of the fight that you were preparing for?
Not, I mean, she did hit like hard, not to say she didn't hit hard, but it was nothing that I wasn't expecting. Like I couldn't have written it, myself better. It literally was what we were expecting, because there were sparring sessions between us in the past, so I had an idea of what her style was like, and then I already had the idea that, well, everybody's path to victory around here is to clinch me up or take me down. So we just had the game plan. We just knew exactly how the fight was going to go, and it did that. Nothing really surprised me, but she got a couple of hard punches in, definitely, and it's not like I expected to be hit. I don't go into a fight thinking like they're not going to touch me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like sometimes I like to get into brawls, you know what I mean? There were a couple of exchanges that we had. Not exactly a part of the game plan, but I got the better of the exchanges. So it is what it is.
There was something about you that I hadn't seen before, and I'm not talking about technique or skills. It was like there was this different persona that you had. Can you talk a little bit? Like you're kind of like a hey, I'm all about the business. I'm going in here, I'm getting my shit done. You're not really a chirper, but you chirped big time during this fight. And I got to know, like, what were you saying, and like what like came over you to like start I don't know like what it was you were saying, but like in between rounds you were definitely talking a bunch of shit, and I got to know like what was up with that and what were you saying?
Yeah, so it was 100% business. Before the fight, we even talked to each other because we like each other. We were like, listen, it's just business.
Right.
So, but yeah, there was a different energy that I had this fight. Like I said, I did have the chip on my shoulder, but I also felt like, and I was saying this before I walked out, I was like, I got to show that there's levels. I have to show that there's levels. I was like, there's levels to this. And that's exactly what I wanted to show. And so after when I started screaming, it was after the second round. And the reason why, and it's hard to see it on the camera, is because after I got the throw, I immediately went into a Dars and I had it fully locked in. And so like when the round ended and I had to let go of it or whatever, the ref's like pulling me off. I'm just like freaking out. I'm like pointing at the ground. I'm like, what? Like just screaming like, I don't even know because I was looking at my team too. Like there was people in the crowd, but my team was also there.
Got it.
So I was just looking at them and I'm screaming. I have no idea what I was really saying. Like when I was trying to think back on it and I was watching the clip and I was like, what was I like saying? I had to be saying something about like, this is my home, this is my spot, like whatever the case may be. I was just really fired up. Like I have no idea like where it came from, but it was just, I was having such a good time. Like, there was one point, somebody in the crowd, I don't know if it was after the first round, somebody in the crowd yells out, "She's tired." And I turned around and I looked at her and I smiled and I like wagged my finger, and Marissa's telling her like, no, sit down, because she knows the girl. And then I was like, no, it's cool. I just wanted her to know I'm not tired. And the commentators are like, oh my God, she's like so relaxed that she's talking to the crowd. And I'm like, dude, I was in my element. Like,
okay, so I have to kind of go on a tangent. I was at CFFC 107 and my boy Blake Builder was in the main event. And he was, I don't remember the name of the Brazilian dude that he was fighting, But I found out very quickly that the said Brazilian contender, his family was like right behind me. And I was talking some shit. I was talking some shit. I was like in the moment, I was talking shit. And I said that. I said those words, but it was true, dude. This guy's like hands were dropping. And I was like, Blake, he's fucking tired. He's fucking tired. And I got heckled. They're like his people behind me. They're like, no, he's not. Like, and it was. I'm just like, oh god, what a shit show. But you know, they were really quiet after Blake
That's
won.
funny.
But anyway, like, yeah, I just something came over me, and you know, so it was funny that of all the things for her to say, it'd be like she's tired. And when you're in the cage, can you hear the commentators say stuff? Can you hear fans saying stuff, or do you just kind of like zone out and like you're just kind of like it's all like white noise? I've always kind of been curious about that.
So I've had fights that have been where everything was white noise.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that. This fight, I could hear everything.
Wow.
That's why I was responsive. Like I was responding to everything. Like, you know what I mean? The ref, the crowd, just everything. My coach, I just heard everything. I heard her corner. You know what I mean? It was like I'm hearing my corner, her corner. I was just hearing everything. I was just so like in tune. And it was just I really do feel like there was a next level presence. And I use the word presence because like what was really important to me about this fight was being present. Fighters will tell you like there are times where you go on autopilot in a fight. It will happen. So my goal was, I knew that if I was just be present, be in the moment, let it go, just do it, then that would be my best performance. You know what I mean? So that's really what it was.
I think honestly for me, like looking back on it, having seen everything there is to see on you, this will probably go down as my favorite fight of your amateur career because there was a lot of things that you showcase. There's subtle things, and I really had to like pay attention. I had to watch for them, and we'll get into that in a second. But I want to talk. I think it was in the second round. I wanted to talk specifically. I think you know exactly what it is I'm about to say. I just watched your fight yesterday again for the second time. This is the first time I actually like listened to it, like paying attention to the actual like people calling the fight, and they said that there was she hit you with a body shot and you were like really, really hurt. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that was kind of new for me. Like when I watched your fight live, it's on mute and I'm just watching it because I am just weird like that. I don't really like listening to commentary. I just want to watch the fights. So can you like explain that a little bit, or like did she hurt you? Did you slip? Like what happened? We have to know because that kind of surprised me. I was really surprised that they were like using inflection and insinuating that you were really hurt because I had a very, very different takeaway when I watched your fight live.
Outrageous. When I watched it and I heard the commentary and I heard that part, I was like, this is outrageous. I don't even think she landed a body punch in that exchange. What happened was as I was backing up, I hit the cage and the cage had this, there's like a barrier on the bottom of the cage that lines it. Normally there isn't one. And it extends out a little bit. It doesn't line up exactly perfectly with the cage, so it extends out a little bit.
So is there like a gap in between like the fence and like the canvas of sorts?
So it's like the cage, then it comes out a little and it like goes back down. It's a little
okay. I got
on the bottom of it. I don't know why that's there. I guess they couldn't seal it the way they wanted to. They put a barrier, but it sticks out. So it like hit my Achilles, like my Achilles hit it and I tripped. I stumbled on it. So then I immediately knew when that happened that the commentators would say I was rocked. That was my first like thought when that happened and I tripped. I was like, fuck, they're gonna think I said like I was rocked. And as soon as I got back to my corner, I bent down. I didn't even get to the stool. I went to my coach and I immediately said, you know, I wasn't rocked. I tripped, right? And he's like, yeah, I know. That's what the clip after that happened is me talking to my coach. I'm like, immediately, no.
Yeah.
I was not hurt at all. Like she didn't even land a punch in that exchange, actually. And like strawweights are super fast, so sometimes you got to really rewind things and to see the exchanges and see what landed and what didn't, like what sneaky little shots were there and whatnot.
I think like one of the narratives that I kind of want to put out there is like number one, like your opponent, very tough, very aggressive, but yes, she had like center control for a good part of the fight, but not all of the fight. That wasn't the case. Like it wasn't like a Sam Alvey kind of sort of deal where like your back is scraping up against the cage the entire fight. That wasn't the case. You threw a lot of combos at her. You stayed in her face. Like you weren't afraid to like leave the pocket. Um, I if one of those uppercuts hit, the fight's over. I was waiting, so I you snapped that off, and I wanted that to hit so bad because it looked so good. We're gonna connect that. Like we are gonna connect that.
I was looking for that my last fight. I'm looking for that shot. I have mean uppercuts. I mean, like I'm big on form anyway, but I know my uppercuts are.
It's like Mortal Kombat. It's a thing of beauty for real. It really is. I love the uppercut, and I wanted to see you get like that kind of finish because like I know how good your striking is. I'm just like it's only going to be a matter of time before she like knocks somebody out like with that uppercut specifically. And so like those are the things that I noticed. But then there are all these like technical things that you did. I haven't seen you hit a wizard before. You hit that, looked really good. I hadn't seen you. I've seen you frame off. I've seen you do these things before, but not as good as what I just saw. Like when I saw you frame off of her, I was just like, that's like some gourmet shit right there. Like I haven't seen it like of that quality before. Like it looked really, really good. And I was actually talking to Elise Reed a little bit after. And her and I were talking, and she wanted to know what happened with your fight, and I told her, and she was just like, "Yep, only thing I'm not surprised. Only thing left for her is to go pro." So, like, when you look back at the fight now, and all the technical things I said, bunk commentary aside, what would you like grade yourself like overall? Like, how happy were you? And then we'll kind of talk about like the decision part later, but like, how happy are you with that body of work? What grade would you give yourself?
It depends. It's like how I would grade the fight versus how I would grade things that I did, because I came in with certain intentions. Like the biggest part of it was like really executing the game plan, sticking to the game plan. That's a really hard thing to do. Fighters will tell you listening to your coaches and executing a game plan and not deviating, so much is very difficult. And I think that happens through experience. And I just wanted to show that mainly to my coach, because obviously other people wouldn't pick up on something like that.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to show like that's an experience. I'm cerebral. You know what I mean? Like I'm really big on, I'm a cerebral fighter. I know what's going on. She put me up against the cage. I said, okay, I don't feel like going muscle for muscle pushing off. I'm going to use it. And that wizard throw is something that I hit in practice a lot. I work on that a lot. And I work on takedowns with my back up against the wall. That's something that I do personally, because sometimes like, Elise is strong as shit. And if she puts me up against the cage, sometimes I just can't turn her around. I'm like, shit, let's try something. At least, even if I don't get the takedown, I get space, I can get out of there. Right. You know what I mean? It's just something offensive defense. I was saying that during the camp a lot. I was like, let's work like offensive defense. When you shoot on me, like, I'm going to show you, like, you're not just going to clinch me up and hold me here. I'm going to do something about it. Like, you know what I mean? So that's...
I was thoroughly impressed. I like the technical things. I would have given you an A personally. I'm biased, I know. Like fighters are always their like own worst critics. Like, it was okay, I guess. But it's like, no, it's okay to say you did a good fucking job. I thought you did a good fucking job. I know that you wanted to finish, you didn't get it, but
that's my knock. My knock is that I did want to finish, but I also wanted to not give this girl a chance. If I brawl, I'm giving somebody else a chance.
You fought intelligently.
That's the only thing is like, and I feel like, and we'll get into this, like, I just feel disrespected sometimes by judges and commentators. who don't realize that, yes, it's an amateur fight and maybe you expect me to be a brawler. But maybe my style is better at pro, personally. You know what I mean? With the full rule set, my style may be better. Maybe it'll be better for me to get finishes. I'll have more time. Judges and people might understand more what they're watching, as opposed to what you expect from an amateur fight. You know what I mean? Like, you expect these kids to just go out there and like swing for the fences, and you know what I mean? Like, I'm showing you that I grew from that I did have fights where I was going out there and swinging. And then, you know what I mean? Like, so that's the only thing. Like, I wish I got a finish. Of course, everybody wants a finish. But I went out there to execute a game plan and win a fight. You know what I mean?
One of the things I don't like, and I know it's not in your realm of control, but back-to-back fights, 2 split decisions. And I was really mad about this last one. Like, for me personally, again, I'm kind of biased. It's hard for me to like call fights for you in particular, or to like be judgmental. But if somebody were to say like 29-28, I'd been like, okay, all right, that doesn't bother me. That okay. 30-27 for you? Okay. Like, that doesn't bother me. That's fine. No argument. But one of the judges, right? We go 30-27 the other way. And like, I heard that and I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, I was mad. I was really upset. So I have to ask, like, 2 split decisions, what does that kind of like, as you like go into like this like next chapter, like, what is it that you would like to see changed about like judging or officiating? Like, as far as scores are concerned, with like being like knowing what the scores are, would that like be advantageous for you? Would that be helpful? Are you a proponent for open scoring?
Absolutely. I don't imagine that our any fighters would be against open scoring. It's nice to know where you stand. Because, as a fighter, like I said, I'm pretty cerebral. So I know when I lost a round and when I won a round, I can feel, you know what I mean, largely. So I'm going back to the corner thinking, shit, I'm 2 rounds up. You know what I mean?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's what there was to be thought. That was the obvious case. And I felt, even in the last fight, I knew for a fact I had lost the second round. She got my back. She had my back, and I exploded at the end. I wound up getting up, but I spent half the round with her having my back. Obviously, I lost that, but I was like, I won the first round. I knew I had to win the third round. And it was like definitive that I won the third round because I ended the round with her back. And it's like, you know what I mean? I know what's going on in these fights. So I'm like, how do you not see what's going on from the chairs right there? What is going on? So I'm thinking, yeah, this fight on
Fruit Ninja.
Like, outrageous.
Fruit Ninja.
Yeah, absolutely.
Angry Birds, some bullshit like that. But like the other side of it though, imagine there was open scoring, and imagine you're being told after 2 rounds, like, yo, one of the judges has you down both rounds. Like, wouldn't that
I'd be like, dude, now I'm gonna whoop your fucking ass for real.
Yeah.
What? If I heard that, I would come with that energy where I was screaming at the crowd for real. Like, I would come with that crazy energy for real.
Yeah. Well, I was always kind of, because like some people
fire me up then. You know what I mean?
I think some people could handle that and respond well, and others may not. So I think like one of the like the compromise solutions that I've always thought made sense is Invicta. Like, sometimes they do this. I think they fight most of the time in Kansas City, so it's just probably a Missouri thing. But like, they have the score on the tablet, and you see like they put it like I'm the fighter, right? And the guy's like back here, so I can't see it, and he's showing the tablet to the coach, and then it's up to the coach to tell you if he wants to or not.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine. I wouldn't have a problem with that. Yeah. That's fine.
That's fair. That is totally fair. There's different fighters, they fight. Some people fight with emotion. I have there's a lot more. I think a lot of guys that they do fight with more emotion. There's more angst as far as, you know what I mean? So something like that might mess with them. They're going out there and they're like, this is do or die. I'm going out there and I'm like, I'm gonna fucking dance like a ballerina, pop pop pop, and you're gonna have fun chasing me. and I'm gonna have fun too, and it's business, and it is what it is, and oh well, I'm the best. And that's, you know what I mean? These guys are like, they're angry and they're emotional, and they're, you know, emotionally invested in this, and I'm like, this is just next in line, dude. Like, let's, you know what I mean? Like, this could be a fucking basketball game. That's the calmness that I'm bringing, the composure that I'm bringing. Like,
I think if I were a fighter, I don't think I could know. I think I would get too fucked.
I want to know. Let me know where I stand, so I know like how important this, like, you know what I mean? Like, how hard do I have to, so, you know, step on the gas to solidify this round? Because I'm thinking I'm 2 rounds up. This guy's saying 30-27. Like, okay, so then I'll show you with 30-27. It'll make you want to take more risks. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, it's like, I'm reluctant to take risks based on a game plan. You know, the takedowns that I did were worked into the game plan in a way. So we were like, listen, if we have to adjust and take her down, that's what we're gonna do. So it's not like that was completely left field or anything.
Right.
So I'm like, if that's what's got to be done, like, that's the time you make adjustments. Like, I'm fighting this fight thinking, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And then meanwhile, what's going on is something is going on. It's a 30-27 the other way. You know what I'm saying? So then I obviously have to fix something. Like
that, like, there needs to be some sort of accountability for some of these calls, though. There like should be an independent board that reviews these judges, that reviews what they got going on. And if you suck a lot of ass, like, your license to judge is fucking gone. Like, there needs to be some sort of accountability. Because, like, I don't want to hear like, well, Amis aren't getting paid, their fights aren't important. Fuck that. Like, whoever said that, like, obviously has no fucking idea what they're talking about. Every fight's important. Whether you're getting paid or not is irrelevant. Don't tell somebody who's been training for 2 months for a fight that their fight's not important. I don't care if they are an amateur. It is important, and you earn the. If you're a judge, like, the people that are putting their bodies on the line, you owe it to them. By God, you owe it to them for 9 minutes of your time. And if you can't give them 9 minutes of your time, you have no business being in that chair. You have a lot of power, and you have to use it responsibly. And I know that sounds homerish, but like, one loss can make a huge difference about whether, like, it has like this butterfly effect in terms of like what opportunities you will or will not get based off of one loss, amateur or not. When you're pro, if I'm an idiot and I'm playing Fruit Ninja on my phone, I could like fucking zap your pay in half just by fucking around on this thing. And that's like scary. Like, could you imagine like your paycheck, where I'm trying to like appeal to the people who aren't fighters? It's like your paycheck is dependent on people paying attention or not. That's fucking scary.
Yeah. Well, and their competence, that too, you know, depending on their competence. And what really kills it is like, there's the criteria, there's no criteria, like, you know what I mean, as far as like who's judging. I've seen some of these judges, man, like, where are they coming from? Also, you have like boxing judges, boxing, MMA, you know, scoring MMA fights, you have kickboxing and Muay Thai judges, so there's gonna be some level of bias. There's gonna be something more that like you identify with, so when you see that, you think that's winning a fight. You know what I mean? That's why the age-old argument is, the guy on bottom throwing up submissions winning the fight, or is the guy laying on top of him winning the fight? Like, that's why you get in these positions, because you have like all these judges that do different, you know, judge different sports, and I can't, you know what I mean?
Okay, so I have an answer for that question. For me, if I were a judge, I don't give a fuck who has top control. What are you doing with it?
Exactly. But guys will say, and that's the same thing I felt about bringing it back to like my fight, where they were like, oh, her cage control, or her, you know, this, that, and the third. And I'm like, but what did she do with it? Yes, she was walking forward, but she really wasn't landing. She was walking forward and she was eating shots as she was walking forward. And I'm hearing her corner scream at her because there was, you know, some points where she disengaged and she wanted to back up and, you know, stay out of the way. So I'm like, she doesn't want to move forward because she's eating shots on the way in, because her corner press forward. And I'm like, if you're not doing anything, and that's, the knock that I had on my, Natalie fight was that like, damn, like you're not even ground and pounding me. I had no space to do anything. You know what I mean? It was like, that's,
I didn't like that fight.
Do anything with it.
I didn't like that fight. For me personally, like again, if I were like, I could never be a ref, but if I were, I'd be like, no, you guys are standing the fuck up. Like, there's nothing happening here. So, like, the fact that that didn't happen, but it is what it is. No reason to dwell on it.
For sure.
You got the decision. It ends up going your way, and the wave of like emotion that came after you, like they got it right. Like, well, two of them got it right anyway. Like, how good did that feel to like know that the right woman won at the end of the day? And did you like kind of like think about like at what point do you like think about like your entire amateur career? Because you don't have anything left to prove anymore at this level of competition. 6-2, and you've learned a lot. Like what it feels like to be on a winning streak. You know what it feels like to go on a losing streak. You know what it feels like to fight somebody who nobody thinks is going to win. Like you've been a heavy favorite for certain fights. Nobody's giving you the time of day for others. So like there's a full range of things that you've experienced in what 9 fights or 8 fights. In 8 fights, you've experienced so much. There's nothing left to prove. Like at what time do you like sit back and kind of like soak all of that in and like formulate your game plan for what's next?
So it was like super relieving when I won. That was like what the emotion that came over me was like, just relief. Like I knew I was going to win. There was just something like, I don't know, it was manifested. I knew I had already put that energy out there, and I was just reaping what was sown. It's just, that's what it was. I just knew I was going to win. It was just something you couldn't tell me otherwise. I'm telling you right now. I've never felt that way about another fight. But there was just something about this one where I was just convinced. So when I had that validation, it was just relief. And it's like this whole week I've been spending kind of soaking it in, and just, obviously there's always a bit of criticism. I like to criticize. So I watched the fight, and I criticize things that I've done. I shouldn't have been on the cage to begin with. I shouldn't have, you know what I mean? I should have circled before getting my back on the cage or whatever, it was like, so there will be elements of like criticism, but I also have been taking the time to like enjoy this win more than I have enjoyed other wins in the past. Normally I look past them and I get right back to the gym and I'm just like, all right, on to the next one. This one I felt like was more ceremonial for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's like now I'm ready. I'm going back to the gym tomorrow and I'm ready to like, let's talk about what moves we want to make now. Like I spent my time soaking it in. Now, I have guys fighting later this month. So now it's gonna be about them. You know what I mean? So now it's my turn to help out in a fight camp.
Hey, and that's got to be
anymore.
And that's got to feel nice though, right? Like it's got to feel nice to like be able to like pay that forward and to like be a good teammate after like being in camp for so long. I think that's super important. And you have so many like opportunities ahead of you. Being able to like retain that title to prove to people that no, I am the real champ. There's nothing left to prove. Like nobody can ever take that away from you ever. Like that you'll always like you'll have that title with you forever. Nobody can take that away from you. And it's cool, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but we got a long way to go still. Like we got a whole nother chapter. That was just like the opening act. Yes. But we got other shit that we need to accomplish. And there are other things that I know that are important to you that you want to strive for. So I know this is a question probably more fitting for your coach to respond to, but like in terms of what are the things that you're looking for? Like, do you have like a promotion in mind that you want to that you're kind of considering, or is it just kind of one of those, hey, I'll go wherever there's a decent fight? Like you've talked about really liking Flex and potentially going back there and fighting again. What is going to be like, what's like the most important thing for you now that we're about ready to like embark on a professional, the professional side of things?
Well, obviously when you're turning pro, you got to do it right. Everybody knows that. So the first fight obviously will not be about money.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it will be about who has the best fight for me as a
Mm-hmm.
debut. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's business moves. I could sit here and pretend I'm one of those. Bring me anybody and everybody. Bring me Rose Namajunas. I can say all that if I wanted to say that, but like that's not who I am. So I need, the right debut fight. Maybe it's another person that's debuting. Maybe they already have a fight. Don't particularly care about that.
Mm-hmm.
But it could even be somebody that I've already fought on the regional scene. It could be somebody, who's seen me fight, who I've run into. I don't even care. You know what I mean? As far as things, go there, it's who's lining the fight up. It could be Flex. It could be, I don't want to say Invicta because it's probably not going to be Invicta. It could be, I go to LFA. It could be, Kambachi. There's a lot of like, my coach he's built a good network for himself. So he does have connections in different organizations, and it's really going to be about, who has the best fight. I don't necessarily know if, he might want to stay local. It might be our best interest right now to stay local. He's not crazy about traveling for fights because a lot of times they fall through. You end up screwed if you paid for your way and things like that. So it's like he's real picky about stuff like that, as far as, he doesn't want to get screwed out of a fight. But so we may even want to stay local. Who knows? Like maybe I'll go to Florida. My family lives in Florida. So it's like we really have no idea where it's going to go. We're also discussing like, are we going to commit to 115 at first? Are we going to do like catch weights? Like what are we gonna, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, what do we want to do?
Well, you have like all these different options, and I know that just with the state of women's MMA and the weight class in particular, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. Like finding a 15er is always difficult to do. And there are going to be opportunities for you to fight. I think you're going to be able to just kind of like pick whatever one that you want. And that's going to be kind of like nice to sit back with your coach and then make the right decision for like what makes sense. Like, okay, we have all these opportunities. What makes sense for us right now? And I have every confidence that not only are you going to be making your pro debut soon, but you'll be going 1-0 in your professional career. Sure. We're starting off that first pro. We're going to go pro. We're going to hit that debut and we're going to win. And we're going to get a finish. We're going to knock somebody out. Sure. We're going to knock somebody out in the very first pro fight on Fight Pass, and it'll be fucking crazy. And I'll probably scream and cry, and my wife will get mad and send me down to the basement for being too loud, and my dog will bark and all other kinds of crazy shit. Hopefully I'm there though. I hope I'm at I'm at your there. I hope I am at your pro debut fight. I hope I am.
I'm just telling you, like, I'm a person. I'm telling you, I benefit more from the longer rounds. If you give me more time, I promise you will get more action.
With elbows. With elbows too. That is unlocked.
Yeah, I threw like probably 2 accidental knees to the head during this past fight, but the ref didn't say anything. And it was accidental. She was ducking her head. So, you know what I mean? Like it's going to the body initially, and then you ducked your head and you kind of ducked into it. So
that's your fucking problem.
I can legally land these knees and elbows to people. Like
I cannot wait. Like that is going
5-minute rounds.
That's going to unlock so many things for you. Like your cardio is going to be amazing. I know you probably do 10-minute rounds. You're crazy. I'm sure it's not a problem for you.
Yeah,
but but it's like all these things start, like all of the restraints that you have on you go away. Like the leash, you're going to be like unleashed to really do what it is you want to do. And that's got to be like really nice. A really nice feeling for you.
Yeah, no, that rule set is so restrictive. Like like even worse when you can't ground and pound to the head. Like the advanced rules, like getting the advanced rules, I thought was like the best thing in the world. And then the advanced rules started to become a limitation. Yeah. And now I'm like, dude, I can't wait to like an elbow and knee and stuff like that. It's gonna be so much, things are gonna come together so much better, especially with that time in the clinch. Or, where people, if I'm on my back and, people can't rest, on your chest so comfortably, and you can chip up with elbows and stuff like that, in the clinch, you can chip up with elbows. That's always a nice additive.
It's going to unlock so many things in your game, and you're somebody like you're good at everything, but like I think of you and I don't think of grappling, I think of striking, I think of boxing, I think of all these things you could potentially like string together, and that's a scary thought. And I can't wait for that. Mariah, before I let you go, as always, I like to give you the stage. So like whatever shout outs that you'd like to do, if there's anyone at your gym you'd like to shout out, I want you to have that chance to do that.
All right. So next month we have like 4 or 5 people fighting. So definitely shouting out my teammates, Eric, Rose, Eli, Nart is fighting as well. I'm sure
Oh shit, really?
Nart is fighting next month. There's 4
Oh,
of them.
is it an MMA fight?
It is. Yes.
Holy
It
balls.
is. It will be at 170. So shout out Nart and his weight cut.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
He can make 170?
He made 178 for this one, so he's gonna make 170 for the next one.
He's huge. He's fucking huge. Man, that defies science. Good for you, Nart.
My fucking guy, and he's gonna win. So we got those guys fighting. So you know, I'm real focused on them. Shout out my coach as always. Shout out Tyler Little always. All right. And cool. Can't wait to do this again.
We will definitely do it again. Mariah Castro, make sure that you guys follow her on Instagram. All of her information to get in touch with her is going to be in the description of the video. And yeah, we're the shit. That's all we got to say. Peace.
Peace.